So, Greg, things have really heated up over the last 18 months in the South China Sea, and I don't think anybody had Sabina Shoal as the place to watch on their 2024 bingo cards. So, why should we care about the South China Sea's newest flashpoint?
Well, bottom line is we care about the South China Sea for the same reason we've always cared about the South China Sea. One, the U.S. has an alliance commitment to the Philippines, which is the one out there getting rammed and kicked around. And two, the U.S. cares about freedom of the seas, has since the earliest days of the Republic. So whether it's island building in 2014, seizure of Scarborough Shoal in 2012, or Sabina today, U.S. interests haven't changed. All that's changing is China's behavior.
I guess the question really is, how do we get here? I mean, this has been going on for years. China builds, promises they're not building, expand, say it's the other guy's fault. Just you wrote a whole book about this, Greg, but if you in 2 minutes, tell us what's in your book and why we're here.
Yeah, so look, China cares about the South China Sea because the PRC has told itself a fairy tale that these rocks and islands were China since time immemorial, which was fine. That was a footnote for us and the rest of the region, as long as there weren't actually Chinese ships down there. What's changed is kind of two things over the last 30 years. One, that China modernized its military, built the world's largest coast guard, the world's largest surface navy, the world's largest missile force, and then built the artificial islands in the South China Sea, which forward deploys all of them. So now there's Chinese ships 24 hours a day in all of these places that rightfully belong to the Philippines, Malaysia, Vietnam, Indonesia. That's made them sit up and take notice. And the second and related thing is that China changed its maritime claims. By the early 1990s, China went from claiming rocks and islands to claiming all the waters, seabed, and airspace within the so-called Nine Dash Line. It's claimed to the South China Sea in contravention of international law. So now suddenly you've got, China upended the regional military status quo and decided that it was going to violate one of the core principles of international law.
So, you mentioned the 9 dash line, which some now refer to, of course, as the 10 dash line, since their most recent map drew another line around Taiwan. But where did the 9 dash line come from? Why do we even talk about a 9 dash line, and what does it mean?
Yeah, so the origin of the line goes all the way back to the early days of the Republic of China. In 1929, Chiang Kai shek's government sets up this boundary commission that's supposed to go look through all the treaties and maps and figure out where the borders of this new thing called the Republic of China is. And one component of that was looking at China's maritime claims. That commission led in 1935 to the release of a list of names of islands that China claimed in the South China Sea. Well, I shouldn't even say they claimed. Whether or not they claim it was ambiguous. But all they really did was take the British sailing charts that existed and they translated all those names into Chinese. That's why most of the Spratlys and Paracels in Chinese are named after British ships that saw them or shipwrecked on them. You'd think if they were China's from time immemorial, there would have been pre-existing Chinese names, but no. Then a single geographer, a guy named Bai Meichu, drew a line around that in a private publication. And after World War II, when the ROC decided to formally annex these things, they used a version of that line, the dashed line. It was quite clear at the time, 1947, when the formal annexation happened, that the ROC was only claiming the islands. It was only decades later that some Guomindang experts in Taiwan and then the PRC government in mainland China decided that the line should be a national boundary, so that they're not just claiming the islands inside of it, but they're claiming all the waters and the airspace too.
So a lot of the reporting makes it sound like they're doing this because of the oil and gas that lies beneath the seabed. You think that's right?
I don't know, am I allowed to cuss on this podcast? I'll just say no. That's BS. If you took
Thank you.
every drop of if you took every drop of oil that's known to exist underneath the South China Sea and you dropped it on the PRC tomorrow, it would account for about 2 years of China's daily oil consumption. There's a bit more gas. That is also overstated, but the gas is really only exploitable by whoever the closest state is, right? So a place like Reed Bank, which is in the news a lot, can only be made use of by piping it to the Philippines. The Nam Can San field, which provides 10% of the electricity for Ho Chi Minh City, can only be used by Vietnam, and so on. So, does CNOOC, the China National Offshore Oil Corporation, want to tap this stuff and sell it on the open market and make a profit? Of course. And it uses China's claims as an excuse to advance its own bureaucratic interests. But Xi Jinping doesn't care about the oil and gas in the South China Sea. Previous Chinese governments did not come up with these claims because of the oil and gas. It's not about the resources. It's not about the fish. It's not even about the commercial traffic that goes through it. China claims these things for the same reason revisionist powers have claimed strategically insignificant spots of land ever since there have been nation states, because it's politically useful, and China has told itself a fairy tale that now has political cachet.